Call meeting to order. Did we get a roll call?
You bet. Lexi. Here. Jerry. Here. John. Here. Justin.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
Looks good.
August 8th and second meeting. Go over there. Questions?
We have on August 8th, we have a proposed schematic or something for the development of the spot and car wash proposed project.
No.
We don't have a document.
Hopefully, we'll have a planning and zoning Monday night, and they will discuss it and then make recommendations Tuesday on the rezone. There's really not a lot out on the 22nd.
Any other questions about that? I'll go ahead and move to our discussion with Heidi. Hello, Heidi.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. I can hear the council and the mayor a little bit, so if there are any questions, Marcy, you might need to just interject and stop me if I can't hear. But yeah, so tonight really what I wanted to talk about in front of the council is the council has been taking actions for proceedings to go into a sewer SRF loan to fund the additional cost due to the sludge removal of the most recent wastewater treatment plant project. When you do go into an SRF loan, and it's required that you take a look at how that is going to be paid, and it's expected to be paid back with the sewer fund. And since the city has done some large projects in the sewer, I've taken a look at it, and the council should have a sewer rate study in your packet. You'll see it is a sheet with quite a bit of numbers on it, and that the sheet that I'm referencing does have a green line in the middle of it. So if you have that in front of you, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm taking a look at to fund this additional loan. You see that green line? To the left of it has all of the completed audited information. To the right of that is the projections of where the sewer fund will go forward. I include some historical information of where, how many meters the city has had, and then the history of the city's rates. Right now, the city has in place an annual 2% increase on both the base rate and the flow rate going forward to keep up with those annual operating expenditures. I do have down below here is the operating revenues and expenditures. And then down below, I have the debt that is currently paid with the sewer. And then down below that, I pull any type of one-time operating expenditure or revenue, bond proceeds, grants, etc. Down below there, so I can put some calculations in place. When you go into a loan, it is a requirement that the city has, after it makes its debt payments that are based on the sewer, 1.1 times the revenue available for your debt payments. So if you see that second gray line down below, I have these debt service coverages. For fiscal year 2021, you were 22 times what your debt service is. But at that point, we were getting ready to put in that large wastewater treatment plant loan. You'll see it, that payment bumped up to $352,000. Where your debt service coverage, you're 1.4 times. And then just for this fiscal year that just ended, you were just over the 1.1 times for that debt service coverage. Did notice that some of your operating expenditures have gone up more than they were expected to. And so in order to go into this loan and to continue meeting the debt service requirements for the loan, the city has put in a 2% rate increase in place in order to meet those covenants and just meet just that minimum threshold of that 1.1%. I'm recommending that the council put in an additional 3% rate increase right now in the next coming months, and then an additional 3% rate increase for the next fiscal year. And then you can drop down to your normal 2% rate increase to meet that requirement. It is expected that the city will has held some hearings for about 1.2 million. The loan will only be approximately 550,000. The reason that we only have a 2-year step up is it's possible that the city may receive some funds after some steps are taken for this sludge removal and receive those funds back. But because the city has had some increases in its operating expenditures, in order to get the loan, it'll be required to have just this minimal increase in your sewer rates moving forward. The sheet after that has the analysis, I just put in for the residential rates, where your rates are currently at, what that additional 3% rate increase will do this year, and then what that rate increase will look at for next fiscal year 24-25. And down below, I showed the user impacts. So for example, somebody who uses 2,000 gallons per month, their bill currently just for sewers, $38.76. This increase now will increase that $38 to $39.91, a difference of $1.15. And then next year will increase to $41.10. So over the 2 years, we're looking at, for a 2,000 gallon user, an increase in that monthly payment of $2.34. And then down below, I just showed some of the additional impacts for different types of users within the city.
We know what our average user is in the city.
For residential, it's typically for most communities, it's typically around that 4,000.
Use that.
Our average residential user.
Yeah.
I think that sounds about right.
Are you talking about consumption, monthly
Yes.
consumption?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2,500 to 4 is usually kind of what we see. Different times of year, different. Like right now, mine's more because I'm watering.
You'll see it a little higher right now. And then of course, some of the larger commercial users will have, will have higher usage, but a typical residential is, like Marcy said, 2,500 to 4,000. So
Average user will take see like $2.30.
By the second year.
Over 2 years. The second year, it'll be $2.
Rather, $2.94.
So our current ordinance says that we increase rates by 2% every year.
5% next year.
So no, so what we're proposing, we just increased them 2% this month for the ordinance for the new fiscal year. So we're proposing an additional 3 now. And then next year, instead of 2, having it be 3. And then after that, 2 going forward.
Yep, the net impact with 5% this year is about $2.30 per household at 4,000 gallons.
4,000.
The way I'm reading this, it's an additional $1.15 on top of what we just increased at 2%. So the extra 3 will be another $1.15.
The 38.76 at 2,000, that's already the 2%.
yeah, that's already the 2%. Yep.
Just in that payment,
Yes,
so-
that's why she only put 3 because we just did 2.
Yeah, bucks.
So probably just went up 90 cents. Now it's going to go up another $1.15 for this year. And then the next year, another to, you know.
Another $1.15 for a total.
Yeah.
Maybe my question, Mr. Mayor, or staff, if we do recoup some money against this, can we
Absolutely.
push that back to the user?
Or you just wouldn't raise it the next year.
We would, right, we would pay
Okay,
down
we
the
take
debt.
action, different action this next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Take it to 1%.
Yeah, hopefully maybe, depending how long that takes, yeah, maybe no increase would be great.
Let me throw this out. What if we do nothing?
What if we do nothing, then we don't get the loan?
We can't get over that 1.1 threshold, is that right, Heidi?
Yeah, with where your operating expenditures are currently right now, you'd have to have a significant decrease in your operating expenditures. And at this point, it wouldn't be feasible to decrease them, because at some point you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know, if you tried to shift them from one fund to the other. And, you know, part of this is due to this new loan. And the other part of it is it was expected that your operating expenditures would increase after this 2020 loan. They've increased a little bit more than projected. You know, I expected them to increase by about 100,000, but you know, we're looking at from 2020, they've increased from 250,000 to 524,000 in 2023. So it's in part is there's always an adjustment period after you do a project as large as you did. And sometimes you do need to have an additional bump. Just at this time when we were reviewing for this additional loan, it was kind of noticed at this time as well. I know you don't want to look at any rate increases. They are fairly minimal compared to what they could be. Your growth is taking care of a large part of this. But we've looked at if there's other ways to reduce the operating expenditures. It's just going to end up hurting another fund in one way or another. And I have an over an abundance. The city will still have to be very diligent in its operating expenditures to keep it right at that 1.1 going forward. And if you kind of see below, you know, in that sheet that I have the debt service coverage for everything paid by sewer. You also have a little bit of debt paid that's general obligation debt that puts you below 100%. So for the next few years, even with this rate structure, I'm expecting that the city will have slight deficits in its cash balance for the next 3 years, even staying diligent with its operating expenditures. So I've kind of put it down to the least amount possible, but also keeping things as stable as possible for the council.
So Heidi, when you make that statement negative in our cash balance, you mean as a city as a whole or in the sewer?
Just where.
Okay.
And it's not large. It's not large decreases. For the next, it's about 20,000. That'll be reduced from the fund balance, so nothing to be concerned about. You do have a healthy cash balance at this time, and can withstand some small deficits. But I just wanted you to be aware that I'm not proposing anything to make the sewer fund a cash cow by any means.
Just residential.
It's both.
Yeah, it's a rate increase across the board. That's what they're asking. Is it just residential, Heidi? It's across the board.
It's across the board. Yes, it's across the board. You'll see that in the sewer rate analysis. The summary I put together was just based off of the residential, for your reference. I didn't want to put too many numbers on that page for you since I put so many on the first.
What's it's a good question though, what's the impact on our average industrial customer? There are heavy suppliers by far. So that's this chart, they probably come and say more than 25,000.
So, if you take a look at that sewer rate analysis, right now, the if they have less than 20,000, any industrial customer has less than 20,000, they have the same base rate as a residential. Their usage rate will increase currently from 986 to 1006. So we're looking at 20 cents per 1,000 gallons increase for this fiscal year. Just on the usage rate, and then that same, about a, and then $1 approximately on the minimum bill.
As long as overage of the- it's like-
That is correct, yes.
And this is only a $500,000 loan,
It's 550.
and what was the total of the overage?
So we're over just a little over $1 million. However, we have EDA money we're still waiting for. And we have ECIA working on that. That's about 350. And then we've got a final SRF loan distribution, which we can't get until the project is closed out, which we can't do until EDA is done. That's another 250. So we're expecting of that million, just over $1 million, that we're going to have, enough to bring that down to around 500. We're putting 550 in the loan so we can make sure if we have any additional expenses with the sludge removal and the project and everything that's going on, that we would have, ample funds to cover those. That's why we got it down to the 550 versus the original 1.2 we thought. And then that will bring that account to zero. If we don't bring that, it kind of doesn't look good to have that account be, just say, oh, just get the money back, leave it at 500,000 negative. Doesn't look good. It didn't look good when we were trying to get our S&P rating. We don't want to have that sewer money sit there negative for 2 years, which is why we're pursuing the loan.
And ECIA is currently working on closing out the
Yes.
EDA.
Yep. And once that's done, then we can close out with SRF, and then that other half of that money will be taken care of.
So Heidi, you got us in here, the 2 plus the 3 for the year that we just started, 5. But if I'm reading the debt service coverage, the parity sewer.
Yep.
We're coming in at like 1.15 and then 1.2.
Yep.
High as we can get that number at the top, you can't do like 4.5 or something like that. It just takes longer to pay back the negative cash balances.
So you're saying to increase the rates further or?
Or decrease. So that we have to be at 1.1 or higher, is that right?
Yes.
If I'm following the column down for.
Yep.
23, we're at 1.156, and then it actually goes up. 1.2, 1.2, 1.25.
Right. And that's because I have in this analysis at the top, I have at the assumptions, you'll see 3% in your sewer sales growth, 3% in your meter growth, and then your operating expenditures going up by 3%. So I have in my assumptions that you're going to have just a little bit more income coming in than your expenditures going up, because I have a twofold 3% and just a 3% on your operating expenditures. So it gives you a minimal coverage here. you know, it's it's a projection, you know, it's hopeful, and that's, you know, kind of where you've been in the past. It's yet to, you know, it's still yet to be determined if the operating expenditures will level out like they have. And, you know, the city is, you know, been made aware of this and will work to that. But with your growth happening as quickly as it is, I wouldn't want to adjust those rate increases any lower than that, because it is very possible that your operating expenditures will continue to increase more than that 3% that I have in that. And that's why I left just a small amount of cushion there for you. Like I said, this is just a projection. And, you know, we hope to be better than this, but there's a lot of things that can happen from the operating standpoint. And then your growth may level off, you know, less than that 3% as well. So.
You know, what's driving those operation costs higher than they.
Well, Marcy and I are looking into, some things may have been coded wrong in payroll in years past, so that might be a driver behind that. So we're gonna look into that, but I don't know.
When Heidi and I talked a couple weeks ago too, we talked about like the biggest couple things were wages and utilities, I think, Heidi, we said, and
Yep.
utilities, just, you know, in general, those expenses have gone up, everybody knows, over the last few years. Last year, when the budget was done before me, some of the payroll, the way the payroll was being coded and divided up changed. So more of our administrative payroll is coming out of the sewer and water fund than it was the previous years, which is what I believe has caused a big portion of that wage increase. And so, and I don't know why the former person who did the budget that year decided to change those. I didn't find out until 6 months into the year last year, and then I had to make a bunch of adjustments for it. So that's something that Annette and I are working on and talking about, like, hey, maybe we need to amend those things and take some of those wages, like not as much of her wages need to come out of water or sewer. And then we think that we can get some of those expenses down. I can only speak to those, to that part of it, as far as that and the utilities there. I don't know if Dean has any other ideas of other, off the top of his head, of things that he could think of that would have, you know, increased it more.
Right, going down just moving from one district to another.
And that's
Overall,
what, and that's what she
city.
said, is just kind of changing it from one budget to another.
We do recover some funds. Can we retire the debt faster without penalty?
I would say so, yes. Wouldn't you, Heidi?
Did you
Yes.
catch? Okay.
Yes.
We
Yep.
talked about being able to pay this off, and then, if, you know, we kind of beat Heidi up a little bit already about, well, we think our growth will be better, and come on, we need these a little bit lower. Can we kick the can down a little, like a year or two, because we expect that those funds could come in and potentially pay this off. That's our hope. And then maybe one of those years we won't have to do any increases, maybe for years or longer. And then we can have Heidi readjust and look at the new expenses and kind of, I guess,
Yep.
go from there.
You know, and the other thing I'll note is for that SRF loan that I have coming up, I've only put interest payments in the first 2 years to minimize the total increase in the rates for you as well. That yellow section, you'll see that those first 2 payments I have are 11,000, then it bumps up to 38,000. And that's another adjustment I made to minimize that, the need for a rate increase now. You know, otherwise we would be looking at higher than that 5% and 3%. And I put the 2-year in there, hoping that after this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, it's resolved, and then that's paid off, and you're in a good position that maybe you can forego 1-2% in fiscal year 26 possibly. As long as your growth and your operating expenditures have fallen as they were expected.
Any other questions right now for Heidi?
So this is going to the public hearing.
Yes,
So there's a chance for us to explain it there.
absolutely.
Probably should put some on the website explaining what's going on.
Yeah, Heidi, we're talking about just an education to the community about the insurances.
Because somebody asked if it would have to go to a public hearing for the change, or if it's just an ordinance change.
So it'll be an ordinance change. You can't, and those typically have 3 readings associated with it. You can waive the second and or the third. If you would like to. A lot of times, if you want to have more public interaction, you'll have the 3 readings. The
No
one,
public hearing is what I'm
What?
hearing, but not a public hearing is not needed.
no, it's just for the, just to make that ordinance change.
Yeah, we can if we want to say, hey.
Yep.
For more transparency, yeah.
Some cities will put, just an additional note in, the next month's billing saying, hey, this is what's expected to be going forward, for the transparency as well.
Or newsletter.
Yep, or in a newsletter. In order to go into the loan, I'll have to have that the city has the ordinances and has had, is having that first reading occur. And so, we'd look to try to have that on the agenda coming up either at your August 8th or August 22nd meeting to have that first reading in place so I can submit that to SRF so you can close on this loan yet in September.
We can set it Tuesday night. No, we can set the hearing, if we choose to do a public hearing, we can set it Tuesday night, the 22nd.
And the hearing and the first reading can be at the same time.
Yes.
We would make this retro to 7/1, right?
Yes.
July 1st.
Heidi, would that be a
So-
good recommendation to make that retro to 7/1?
I don't know how our billing system would do that.
You know,
Be nice if you did, because that'll be enough.
you are going to be losing a little bit of revenue, but if it makes better sense to do, an October 1 date, from a billing perspective, you're probably going to be fine.
About
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather-
I mean, right now, Chris will be sending out bills this week for the July 1 change. Because we didn't, we don't change that until the July consumption. So yeah, and I don't know of a way that the system can backdate and say, oh, there's a few dollar,
I don't want it for that date. No, I just want
And
it.
it probably would behoove us to have all 3 readings since we have ample time.
Yes, I think so.
So by the time we have the first reading in August, by the end of September, we could start the new rates October 1.
Anything else?
Not a fun thing, but I do appreciate everyone taking the time and asking the questions.
Well, because the recyclers are gonna lower our costs. I think that's.
We did not increase the garbage rates this year.
Anything else for Heidi? Thank you, Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great night, everyone.
Now the. All right.
As you can see up on the screen, those were the 5 that were contacted. Allied Republic, there was no bid submitted. Pleasner, they submitted a bid. We have Craig here, White County, they submitted a bid. I'm assuming from White County.
Yep.
Okay. And then Dittmer, they submitted a bid. Theirs was quite a bit higher, so staff made the decision to just not include them in the discussion tonight. And then R&R sanitation, no bid submitted. So you have the information before you. Marcy put together a really nice spreadsheet that did a comparable. So hopefully you've had a chance to look that over, and we do have the 2 haulers here, so if you have questions, we would be more than happy to answer those questions. No, we haven't, but we've been having complaints about the recycle totes, that they're not big enough. If people don't purchase a lid to cover them, then we're having, you know, the recycling material fly out of there. When I started a couple of years ago, there was a movement toward getting a automated truck to pick up not only the garbage, but the recycling. And I know that you guys do have those now.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
and we
where-
actually have containers to do the opposite. So, yeah,
Okay,
I mean, we planned on getting it done this fall before winter comes.
okay, and that's part of the discussion.
So you have the technology in place to make that automated change.
Yeah, we're already doing it. I mean, yeah, so Strawberry Point tires have been converted to recycling. And
So they're not using the bins, they're using the totes now?
we're doing so
Okay, what size are they using?
65.
Okay,
What are we using now?
those little
They have
recycling.
their own
2015 or?
18-gallon recycling is what we would have provided. Today, I'll pick it up the last 15 years. So.
So we both use 65.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be up discussion with you guys, I mean, you guys could do some deal where you offer, it's like, gosh, a lot of homes have, 3 or 4 kids. There are a lot of places that have a lot more trash than just your average container. 65 is gonna hold a lot more than that average container. But the next size up goes to 90, 95, which is a monster. But obviously, if that's not the bid, probably the additional cost will be the additional cost for the container.
And right now, we're doing like a 35, yeah, like just your general ones, so the
Well, they
65.
have their own trash.
Right, yeah, we have our own trash containers now, but most of them I feel like are
Well, there's a
right.
lot of people that have
Are there?
65s out.
Okay,
And, a lot of them, we have cartridges on the back of the truck, or they're dumping by hand. Recycling, the majority of them are the 18-gallon container.
Yep.
And, you talk about the lids, I mean, even back when Karen was here, she had some concerns about providing lids for all of them. Before we do that, we'd rather just convert everything to 65 gallon, so it's just the lids are a pain.
Yeah.
They snap on hard, they're hard to get off, fumble around with them, it's hold it out, Yeah, I'd say it's time,
Yeah.
Get the parts out there.
Can I ask what your name is?
Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin, forgive my ignorance here, I'm new on this process, but so if we cut over to the different size posts, do the citizens pay that, or is that important in the bid?
No, we
For the city, that's what is provided.
Yeah, once we, hammer out, if that's what you want to do, I'm assuming. I mean, our intentions right now are 65-gallon tote for trash, 65-gallon tote for recycling. Ideally, all the other customers we do recycling every other week with a 65-gallon cart. Because you gotta remember, you're going from an 18-gallon tote all the way up to a 65. That's what offsets that savings for us. When we go to every other week, these carts are expensive, they're anywhere from 60 to 70 bucks a pop. You take that times 700, 800 homes, that's a lot of money. That's where we offset costs. And then we have one driver that can pick up like Yassa one week, and then he might be Strawberry Point next week. Yassa, it works really well. There's good savings there for us. But I think it would be more than enough for the.
You have not seen my wife's Amazon.
but your quote does just to
Ours is-
verify,
ours
your
is-
quote is weekly that we
Every-
have, okay,
I'm just telling you that's what we're doing.
Yep.
Kind of giving you a little more information about what's going on. It does work well. I mean, and Piazza is one of them towns that do have a lot of young families, and they do have a lot of recycling. There would be quite a few of them that would need more than one tote to make it every.
I don't use the tote, I use a can, because it's not big enough, I use a
The
big can.
next one, I mean, we have people that have 65-gallon totes that put them out once a month, once every 6 weeks. Yeah.
But if there's extra boxes, I mean, honestly, then
Well,
every week
like-
I've got boxes out.
We have that in Dyer as well. We have provided an extra 65-gallon. But, some of them don't really prefer that because then they gotta find a place for it in the garage. So they just keep their original 18-gallon recycle bins and they set them alongside of it and jump out and toss them. Which we're, kind of pain in the butt again too, but when you spend all that money, you don't spend all that money, so you still get a truck. But if it's only a handful,
guess I have that question for Craig, for Cleaser. Did you guys consider a weekly model for recycling?
Yeah,
pickup?
they called and asked to get one. It would be $2.40 more on our bid.
Yep, I got your quote after I put the
What's that?
spreadsheet together.
Yes. Over the 13.
$2.
42.
240.
Yeah, I got his quote to add that after I sent that out to everybody, so.
I think that weekly coverage is a big deal.
I agree.
Now, I realize it could go up to 65, or some people get a job, whatever, it's a little bit different. I think weekly's a big deal.
I know, knowing Josh, you know, like I said, we've been doing this for, I think it's right around 17 years. I would say it would be a big deal to about 30% of your homes, so. If I, yes, right around 30%.
Because there's overflowing.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of kids and they got a lot of stuff going on, you know, a lot of people, you know, they're probably on some business stuff on the side out of their house. And now, you know,
Right.
TUI.com and all that crap.
Everybody's at home working from home.
Yeah, you know. That definitely made a big difference after COVID, we got a lot more exciting.
So just with that alone. Expenses on that. Yeah, we just-
Just another question for you, Craig, please, a bit. You guys, your starting numbers coming in about a buck higher than where we're at right now. Are you having to make some investments or something to take
No,
capital or other to take?
well, the cans,
Cans.
yeah, we gotta buy all cans.
And so that's probably
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yep, I mean, it's, but like I said, we gotta buy 2 cans for every house, so you got 1,600 or 1,500 cans that you gotta buy. I mean, so it's a significant undertaking.
So we have what, 772?
Yeah, I put 800 for the numbers on there, but it's about 700 and 780 something, I think it is, the last bill from Five County.
You know, the 5-year cost is similar, but if we go with a weekly model, please, that's another 400. So if I'm understanding, right?
We're currently charging the residents, I believe it's $13.38 a month.
Yeah, citywide.
Yeah, we have information on.
Yep,
Yeah, all the
that's all on the
information's on-
spreadsheet, yep, and then their bids, yep.
So this, yeah.
I know you currently still do 2 citywide cleanups, so I think we had a word in there that, you know, optional stuff.
Sure.
We prefer one.
One more question maybe for Craig, just, so we've got a lot of residents that have pre-bought tags, you know, for tagging extra cans. And there's probably something the city bought that we're ahead on. Your note said you were willing to honor current tags up for a period of time, but what does that period of time look like? People are pre-bought.
We hadn't really discussed that. It was just that we wanted to, you know, make sure that the free tags that we had already bought, that we didn't lose all that money. So again, I think that could be negotiated out to a reasonable amount of time.
30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
I mean, but once you got the totes,
You won't need them.
very, very seldom do you use them. I mean, every once in a while,
They're probably homeowners.
I would think we probably sell, I don't know, probably less than 200 in all the towns we do a year. Yeah.
You'll see the counts that,
Less.
yeah, the counts that are on there are what's out there now. We did call the gas stations, the grocery store, Ace. And then obviously we have some here, so those are $1 a piece. We've already sold the ones to the other retailers. And then obviously we don't know what we have in the public's hands, but you know, it could take a while for some of those to be recouped.
Some cost.
If they're not using them very often.
What would the timing on this new contract be?
I think we all discussed it maybe November 1.
Okay.
I think we had it good for October, but I don't think that will be some time, but
That would be,
it rolled out. That would be.
that would be fortunate.
the ones that you're recycling, and I did talk to the vendor that had enough on hand for our trash, so. You know, on our end, it might be a deal where unless I can come up with enough people, it might be a deal where we might have to do an upset. The last ones that we converted over, as much as I hate to say it, we ended up just leaving recycling bins out there. So every recycling bin I ever bought brand new for $6-7. So I'm down to 2. Now they're using them for carrying tomatoes and doing yard work. And I had an expensive bike, I mean, but I mean, that's what we, and the ones we did switch over, we just had them put it in the water bill or newsletter or whatever, that they did not want that bin to just leave it out for recycling. So there's gonna be some people that want to get rid of them. We don't see very many, they usually find something.
Any questions for me?
But that's a good question. I do have a question. So if we put in the newsletter or whatever that you have the current posts now that you need to set them out, what happens if they don't set them out? What if they just keep them?
I'm at the point right now where I don't want them.
Okay.
Just
All right.
it's just gonna be
Done.
We talked about it, and it's just gonna, there's gonna be confusion there, especially
Sure.
where, you know, we talked about, that's been out there for 17 years. If we figure out how much they depreciated over 17 years, it worked about 99 cents a piece, so. Merry Christmas.
Sure.
It'd be easy enough to put it in the newsletter, on a water bill, in an email, text, that stuff too.
Yeah, put them in the nearest driveway.
In your driveway.
Sounds great.
Collection point.
Money.
Seems like you're driving on the street.
Absolutely.
Especially in the winter.
He's smiling the biggest about that one, isn't he?
Careful what you wish for, right?
That's all right, I got a fence in my backyard, I could possibly.
There you go. Greg, what cities do you guys cover?
Upward Farley, Manchester, Owine, Hazelton, Wyoming, Lamont, or Wyoming.
It's on the RFP too, there's a list. Okay.
25 a day. Okay. Like Worthington.
And I have to say both have been great to work with. I mean, even during the bid process, haven't had an opportunity to speak with you, but Shandi, one of our office staff, she loves you guys.
He wants to talk to Tracy. He stopped in with the bid, so.
Obviously, the city staff, we're really familiar with Bi-County. Do we make any reference calls to some of these other cities?
We did not.
We did not, but quite honestly, I mean, they're both well known throughout Northeast Iowa.
I think I've talked to a couple different clerks. I just went to clerk school with the Worthington clerk, Terry. I think that, I've never heard anything negative. They're out of Farley, so they're local.
Staff actually has the easy part to put this stuff together. It's up to you to make it's up to you to make the decision. We definitely brought the two best callers to you to make that decision.
Thank you guys for making the proposals.
Thank you so much.
For being here to help with the questions.
So it'll definitely be on the agenda Tuesday night, so I think that we probably have to do a little bit more discussion, but just keep your eyes on that, the agenda, okay?
Okay, all right.
And I'll definitely call. I'll call
Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
You know how to reach us.
Card.
I left one.
We have one
Okay,
in the office. Yeah.
My cell phone number.
okay.
Yep.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you. See you later.
Calendar year is 12 months.
This originated with Shandi, Carissa, and Marcy, because they deal with people calling in with the food truck permits. And I have to agree that right now we have it on a calendar, you pay $200, it's good till December. So what we'd like to do is take that to, if Justin calls in and wants a food truck permit in March, it's good from March to the following March.
12
When we
months.
first did this, the reason we didn't do that was paperwork side, the staff keeping track of.
Yeah, Shawnee was a little concerned with that, and I was like, we can put it on the website along with it when it expires. It's easy as putting it on your Outlook calendar, and here's the reminder that when they're due.
We have 9.
I think it's 9.
Because we had people that call in October. We had somebody that stiffed us in September last year because they didn't want to pay for it for 3 months.
That's
So
the
they-
question I got last year about someone.
Yes.
And we won't prorate it. If they call like in October, November, December, we might say, well, you're only going to be here once this year. We'll let you do, but it's, yeah,
I think if you guys don't think it's any extra work on your part.
yeah. I don't think it is. Shawnee just doesn't like change.
Do we have anybody working on anything? They show up.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, Mike
Yeah,
does.
You can ask Mike.
Yeah.
Like it's on beat stuff.
If I see, if we see it, like,
It's pretty fun too, let me tell you.
we call him, I'm like, Mike, the cop truck's up there, go get him. Yeah, he,
I'll have a falafel and-
Yeah, absolutely, I'll stop and have something. Len.
I'll have a falafel.
Before you go.
Get out of
That's
town.
right.
if we see them, I mean, obviously, we don't
Most of them are pretty good.
follow
We'll
the
go up there,
Facebook
you know,
pages.
say, hey, you don't have a permit, we go up there right now to get a permit. Most of them
Yeah,
do that.
If you guys are proposing to change that.
and someone pulled out.
I can go and photo them, so
Yeah.
it's easier for them.
Thank you. We're not going to discuss this tonight. The engagement letter or contract will be here hopefully by Tuesday night. So hopefully by Monday, by noon, I'll be able to put it out on the agenda, but it will be with Bergen. We had a lot of discussion about this, about people, I guess, for the lack of a better term, illegally dumping. So we just want to discuss what the thoughts of council may be on this. I knew the new site is, the walls are poured, everything's there. Do we want to camera it? Do we want to gate it? I mean, this, I think, jump in a beam at any point.
We have cameras anywhere else, so we can just tie it into a system.
No, not even down at wastewater treatment.
No, we didn't.
We have Wi-Fi
ECC?
down there.
Any way of.
Well, we have Wi-Fi at the wastewater treatment plant, so we should be able to get the cameras.
We're still looking to do the city cameras, yeah, I mean, we're still working on that aspect of it. When that comes up, we can put a camera on that, as long as we can get internet out there, which I think we should be able to, but.
Yeah.
So there was a truck that had a commercial truck backed up in there and we don't want.
Dave Meyer.
Dave Meyer did?
Yeah.
It was actually coming from
Yeah,
C.
okay.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, we called Captain.
Yeah, that was. Some kind of camera.
But I mean, at this point, we don't even have to.
I'd say, I think
Well,
we
To
talked about
clarify,
saying
to clarify,
citizens
like,
only and fines or.
Trailer.
That was the intent, right? Citizen use only.
Yeah.
It's not a
and
commercial.
this is basically the whole reason that we never opened up the new site, that's just because we don't want to,
More work.
Drag all the
dump.
You're gonna block that road. Mr.
gate the road.
Absolutely. I mean, there's somebody there. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
I can do it tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, yeah.
Are you gonna be there every day to open it, close it?
Justin is.
I was being sarcastic.
Can I suggest something though?
Stuff, right? It's literally something to do. Close the gate.
Oh, we could, but I think what we're gonna experience then is all the children, that's gonna be on front of the gate, and that's what we're gonna do, is get her away from the gate and open the gate.
Well, I use it if I'm not there, so that, it's fine.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're not already your hours, yeah, your hours.
And I think the phone calls are gonna be nonstop. I think we're just gonna have to monitor it and just see how it goes for the first initial part of it, you know, I think when we have to make adjustments as we go. Yeah, I would say, until we get an ordinance, it's signed up. Have you ever done one? where you say-
Happy to
Have you ever done an ordinance before?
No, this would be my first shot at it. Thank you for the opportunity.
We made you. Significant.
This is
At first,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Make our-
Before it irritates me, what's on the sign?
Pardon?
It irritates me.
What's on the sign that says there's a camera there now?
It's not even the initial businesses and the residents that have hired companies in town that do it. It's how much stuff that's getting brought in from Thunderville, Birds, Asbury. Also, just keep in mind with this is, you know,
we start issuing citations for this goes on the city ordinance. This is the state, this is city where Doug Herman would be paid to handle this in court. Just expect more court costs or his expenses to handle these citations at court.
Well, I'm assuming the ordinance is legal.
Yes.
It'll be, airtight, where you can fight it, but you're still gonna.
Right. But
I think
you're
the
still,
fines- the
I mean,
fines
depending on
get
how
set
big is your fine, are you doing a $10 fine, then
No,
you're gonna spend $100, on a Doug Herman to go fight in court, if that's the case.
And
You get what I'm saying there?
Yeah, and our nuisance fines right now are ranged from $45 a day up to $750, so I just recommend $750.
I'd only go higher than that.
I mean, they definitely gotta be higher on what your landfill is, but otherwise you have, just gotta pay the fees of the fines and not have to deal with the landfill.
When you say there's people bringing things in from Thunder Hills and Thunder Ridge and stuff.
I was just saying, for example.
No, I know, but I'm just, it's open to them, if a private citizen brings a thing over, we're not gonna try and find that,
Well, that's what we gotta decide.
How are you gonna, how are you gonna know who
Is
it is?
there anybody using that uses our water?
It's a resident. I think you'd say it's a.
You have to be a resident out in the city.
I think you get rid of the commercial side altogether. No commercial company can up there. And they should be taking care of that stuff. Dagmar, yeah, they might have dumped it today, but you should have took care of that and been.
Absolutely.
I think clean the place,
It should
don't
be
keep it to city residents. No, just city.
Because what I mean,
residents.
Russ's question was, how do we determine who's a resident of the city and who's not? Who's from Burns Acres? Who's from-
Are we gonna look at the camera and have somebody?
So that's the problem is we gotta look at every car, how much time you want to put into reading license plates, then finding out who it is, then going to their house and then trying to determine where did it come from? You're expecting a lot of time invested in grass clippings to be getting dumped, you know what I mean? So I think,
I'm not worried about the grass cutting.
yeah, you know what I'm saying, yeah.
If you say city residents, it's gotta be city residents, whether they got flat grass cuttings or
Whatever.
whatever. You got trees and stuff like full growing trees, it shows up over there after a weekend.
Then you invest.
I feel like you can put the biggest sign up there and nobody reads it anyway. There's go out there and nothing, so.
I think intent was for branches, not for a complete.
Or we can just get rid of it altogether. I mean, that is another option. And then Dean gets another beautiful,
Put a room on it.
oh, there you go, see? I mean, that is another option, but it's a good amenity to have.
It is, I think it's convenient if everyone, I mean, if it's allowed.
I think a lot of that grass ends up in the streets and the sewer and other the ditches and things that we don't.
So maybe we get rid of the branches and stuff and just say it's just for grass.
Grass and plant looking to
Twigs.
Smaller business.
Problem is people will still dump it if they can get away with it.
I think the million dollar
Then
question
you're
is,
looking,
how much do we wanna babysit it?
Right.
So if you saw something that was excessive, let's say when you guys go to.
that's
Turn it
that's
over.
when you
Then
investigate.
that's when you do an investigation, that's when you try and go back through this, and I don't know, it's not gonna be a perfect system.
Right.
Definitely don't do.
If we can deter 50% of what's happening now,
you can cut the business.
the business is the big thing.
Right now, it's obvious the branches that are coming in, are coming in, not dump trailers.
Yeah.
Wow.
I see
That
that
could be
by all the time.
a quick fix.
Pardon?
That could be a quick fix, you see someone dumping a dump trailer in there. It takes one phone call, they'll do that again.
Right.
What's the entry fee to the dump? Is it like $25 or?
Minimum.
I think it's by the ton, by the way.
But there's a
Minimum
minimum.
wage,
There's one.
I think it's $20.
But I mean, we can haul a single axle dump truck load in there, it amounts to anywhere from $35 to $50, just because you can't get a volume, you can't get a weight on it. It's waste of our time, so that's why we would burn money.
Yeah.
People that are out there having to burn it, still have to babysit while we're burning.
So do we want to just keep it to grass clippings? Or do we just want to monitor it for now?
Yard,
Yard
Grass and
waste.
yard waste.
yeah, yard
But
waste.
don't mention trees.
Yeah, don't tree, what do you, branches?
We do the ordinance.
Yeah.
We can put the piece up there, put a camera.
And then when you get
Small
If you see something suspicious, then you can go back and take it. Yeah.
You want those Wi-Fi cameras, so that's considered.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, when we get our cameras up around the areas.
Obviously, we don't want anybody spending hours on days. to-
No, right.
It just was egregious.
That's the exception.
That's the street or the railroad tracks. So
Butte County is going to be doing north of Tegan Drive out to Old Highway. Coming up, they're gonna do the engineering this fall. Are they gonna let it in February? And then in summer of next year, do their portion? So they reached out to us to see if we wanted to join them on the quantity, which is, it's a smart decision to do because we want to do Piasta Street from the tracks north to Tegan. And we can budget for that next year and do it simultaneously.
It'll be summer of 2024.
Yes,
Yes.
summer or fall, if I recall.
I'm assuming, probably all assuming that the train lane project is done by then.
I don't think
Oh, you're gonna not think about it.
I mean, I don't want to be funny about it, but I mean.
Hey, Dean, if you'd like us all to step out, we and John stay, we can.
No, that wasn't on you. I know that.
Yeah, I'm aware.
And it just makes sense because that'll all be resurfaced.
Yeah,
And it just makes sense to do it. The estimated cost was a little over 200,000, I think.
Right around the 200,000, yep, and I think it's prime opportunity for us to gang up with the county and complete that project. And also with advance notice, I think it would be a prime time for us to contact railroad and see if we can get them on board with doing something with that crossing. So that crossing.
Was there any reason doesn't have that in the?
No,
Yeah.
not the crossing. With advance notice, as much advance notice, I think it's, it could be a prime opportunity. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was done and the crossing was done in 13. So that'd be coming up on 10, 11 this year.
So, question, is this going to be funding for industrial park growth? Something like this?
For the what?
Yeah.
No, this will be road use tax money that we'll use. So we get about 300,000 a year. So that should cover that and maybe
So it'll be
give
a
a couple other streets to be able to resurface.
Cap is our number one capital priority.
But finding the funding for that is going to be extremely difficult.
Right.
But if we decide to move forward, it would be a 2080 agreement with the county.
with us.
Yes.
Yeah. Most people cut scene with that or something like that.
Could be crossing or whatever, it may be, it's hard to say what we're.
With that concrete stuff.
Not sure. if North End tracks.
Okay, I'll get a hold of Russell tomorrow, Monday, with the county.
Probably something about that one.
Vacate area and grade roof.
Where are the attachments?
That's right.
Why is this not moving? Are you able to bring up the attachments that were sent? Okay. I'm gonna bring it up over here, 'cause this one's not opening up for some reason.
Yeah. It's like it's frozen. Okay, the first attachment is mine and Doug's attempt at what is,
This one?
yes. It's a real mess back there. You know, it's a mess with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't even need to see it. So Ray approached me to see if we could vacate the alley what we own behind him because he wants to get his affairs in order. And his words, when he kicks the bucket, wasn't mine. And so that way his children didn't have to deal with anything back there, which is a smart move. So at that point, I suggested, can we get our first right of refusal on the hashtag where it says city acquired? They both agree, Rosie and Ray, that that's okay. However, they would like 20 feet because his shed is literally sitting on that property line. Right. So what this will do, again, it's just an absolute mess, but it gives us the opportunity to really square off that property. The Riley property that we purchased, working with AJ, the property north of the Riley property, and then obviously getting that first right of refusal on the lot that's just to the west of that. If you go to the second attachment that's in there, I want to show you that long alleyway that's right behind Ray's that he wants to vacate. That is, the city owns that, and if you notice, it goes all the way west. And if you go north, there's like a roof, a shed with a round roof on it. That is on our property. So they're not being taxed for it. So I need to reach out to Billy Selby at Dubuque County to find out.
At the end of the one.
Yes, right.
That's on our property.
That's on our property.
Street.
So at this point, when we started looking at this for Ray, this is when I started noticing that it's a mess.
So these are supposed to be alleys.
Yes, that was at one point set aside for an alley or a road. And it just never came to fruition. So the McAndrews who own that property, that is their shed on there. So I'm going to contact Billy Selby at the Dubuque County. Doug suggested that we even discuss with McAndrews about purchasing that property from us at market rate. Legally, we cannot give anybody any property not even for $1. It has to be at market rate. So there's a lot of moving parts that really opened up this discussion with Ray. But this will clean up a lot of this area.
Are you thinking about reaching out to the rest of them and see if they want to vacate the rest
We
of
can,
their
yeah.
alley?
I think
Or
it would
do
be
you
smart to
want
do it.
Do it all at once?
Yeah.
The whole thing. And
But if, and I know I reached out to most of you about the first right of refusal, and everybody's in agreement with that. So Doug is working on the agreement to get that prepared for Ray and Rosie's attorney to look at. But also he could start working on the transference and vacation of all those lots back there for Ray and Rosie at this point. And I can reach out to McAndrews, I believe, are the only other owner that goes along that alley line all the way over to like the river tracks. So it's, it was a real head scratcher. McAndrews owns both of those.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
185.
Yes. So I can reach out to them and I'll bring them in and I'll bring up the aerial and show them exactly what's going on. They're probably oblivious to this, quite honestly. And I think that they'll understand, and trying to get a realtor to give me a market rate value on that 50 feet is going to be tough. But that would sure clean that mess up. wouldn't it?
Also shed in the
I was
alley.
gonna say, there's another
Yeah,
shed
that shed behind.
just west of the 185.
Right, it's up into the trees. It's in the
That
alleyway.
is McAndrews.
It's all
So
three of those
McAndrews
properties.
actually has two sheds on city property.
Yes.
well, that other one might not be.
Well, that might be. oh, that's not Ray and Rosie's, that's
That one in the
McAndrews.
back corner, those lines are up by at least 5 feet.
There may, again, there may.
It might be right up against the line.
You can see that fence line, that's what the line should be. That's light up down.
There might be some surveying involved. But if you're okay with me moving forward with this.
Surveying their costs, or
Well, I haven't talked to them yet, so I would like it
I think
if
you're
it
talking
was.
about the-
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
talking about the
Rating.
The vacate,
yes.
Yeah.
I don't care if they want to get together. They're one shot of it.
okay. Okay, this is a budgeted item within the 2023 bond issuance, and I had Stacy put some notes in there. Kind of give you an idea. This company is out, I think, at Batavia, or even got one of the two, and just wanted to make sure that there's really nobody else around that can do what they do. So hopefully you had
This is the only response to our RFI request.
Well, I think she just reached out to them. I don't think she reached out to anybody else because I don't think there is anybody else within. Right. Yes. And I believe this came very, very close to what she had budgeted for one of the on item.
Coming in at 40, right?
Yes.
Bonds coming in at 38.
Now, and they said that they would work with her, knowing that events were coming up, that they would get their guys there and stay late, they'd stay late to do it. That'll be the only time it rains in Austin.
So they're gonna have time window too, because the weather's gonna have to be 60 degrees maybe or above.
For that, that was probably for that setup.
So they're gonna have, they can do their own window shoot.
Yes.
It's too cold, they can't
No,
cure when it gets too cold.
Most of those type of detox type things.
And catch it. The hole will be filled in with the same epoxy or?
I don't know what that process is with,
They'll fill it up with some sort of material. I don't know if it's gonna be the same epoxy material, but
And then they'll.
Screw it, yeah.
Because the holes are really bad.
Mhm.
I mean, especially because everybody's using that entrance.
oh, sure.
So it's
Obvious.
You have to say off of that.
Yeah, don't go up and through.
It's coming up
I
tomorrow.
would say we go ahead.
Yeah, so that would be the resolution will be on the agenda Tuesday night for your review and approval. This was another email that I had sent out to you all. I had an individual call and said they were interested in purchasing the house so they can move it. The timeframe wasn't discussed.
We don't know how long it will take.
Right. I don't know. I did call her back yesterday to let her know that we had discussed it. There may be a minimum bid amount included, and that I would get back with them if council decided to move forward with what that number would be.
We $3 an hour.
What happens to the property if we don't have the house moved or whatever?
I discussed with Chief Comer and Jeff Katz of the fire department.
We're gonna
wanted
use it.
to-
Control them.
We would use it as control burns, like, well, the fire department would, we would do our training, active shooter training, or have canines go in there. But take the money, I guess, too, you know what I mean? If you can get revenue from it,
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with
There's
it.
also a level of training that
There is.
safety departments. do.
Right, and the fire department's never had this kind of training before, so Jack was pretty excited about it.
What do you think we could get us?
For a
Like I said,
minimum
it's a
bid?
minimum bid of 20 grand.
20,000.
I think that's about it.
You can set the minimum bid however you want.
It's gonna cost them, if they were just moving trucks on, it's gonna cost them $25.
Right.
It depends where they're gonna move it to, but yeah, 10
They
to 20.
moved one by
They would be able
Sam,
to go around the
White
roundabout.
House by Sam.
They wouldn't be able to go around the roundabout.
Some of them will.
You think so?
Oh,
I think the interesting thing about the house is the longevity.
You know what, I think.
I've heard of it.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Still a cheap house.
So, yeah.
But
That's
keep
pretty
in
cool.
mind,
That's exactly right. It's a cheap house, you know. Even if you do pay
Nine, one in.
another 20 for expensive, we'll move it 40,000, it's, everything's there. Besides your lot and your basement,
Got a lot and a foundation.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Sit on it.
but still.
Go.
go, yeah, but keep in mind the agreement that we have with the Rileys is that they have until the end of this month to leave, which I know they're moving now. And they have the right to take anything in that house with them. So they literally could take down all the woodwork.
Carabel.
Right. Right. And I've got a text out to Shane to ask him when they're going to be out to either give the keys to me or to Chief. maybe this is something that we don't, maybe it wouldn't even be in any shape.
I really like the idea of giving kids opportunities. I know we can make one thing. If fire departments ever had this opportunity to train like this, you guys could do some good work out of it.
And we get some good publicity out of it.
I just think it's just good for-
We need it.
I mean, we absolutely would, and I would, not trying to sway you guys one way or another, whatever you guys want to do, but I would extend it out to other agencies, to come over and train with us, Duke County and all the other small agencies that come, and we do active shooting training / K9 alert training, you know, like, they would come in and utilize that also.
We can charge their counties, their officers coming in.
No.
That's something, 20 grand.
Right, that's-
Another my change machine.
But again, I guess it just depends on how much they take out of it, that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
Take the cabinets out and everything,
I think the public safety is huge.
How long are you thinking we did up?
It doesn't affect anything with tournament, right? The power will be eliminated. There will be no power.
I'd say a good month would get
Power-
fire and police to get our training.
You're gonna have to do your training.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we would work with fire department. They would do theirs on Monday nights and go through and they'll do smoke outs and they probably cut holes in the roof, you know, do air ventilation, all that stuff, you know.
Okay, within 2 months, it's all tore up.
Yeah, probably. I would say at least a month. I mean,
And with the controlled burn, I mean, do we put the cost of that back onto the fire department? Because there'll be multiple agencies coming in. It just won't be Centralia or possibly Viesta. So,
Middle of town.
and Doug Herman and I had that conversation, and he said we just have to make sure that when Mike and I, we have a quarterly meeting with Jack Hess just to keep him updated on what's happening in the community. And he didn't seem too concerned at that point, but yeah, we'll have to
They got
make
a
sure
lot of
we
water.
flush out everything before we decide to do that. And then option C is we demo it ourselves. Yeah. That's awesome.
We could still put that garage and stuff on the hill, but still, like, would imagine.
So do you want me to put that up for RFP?
There's two
garages,
garages, one's built, the detached one,
That's gotta go with the permanent project.
they're both detached. Both garages are detached.
Small ones.
But the small one's like a cement bunker in a wall.
That one's gotta go.
That one's gotta go. Turn lane's going.
Oh, that one.
But the other one sets up pretty much.
The other one's
house.
the house like that. So we could get something for that. Somebody could look at-
I think we wait, I think we wait, see what we get into it, see what it looks like.
Okay. What about the garage?
Yeah, I'm just talking about the garage now.
Do I just,
The house.
I know if anybody's interested, just say, what do you give us for it? Let's let them go, or,
If they wanna, yeah. I don't
Sure.
see that we're gonna make them.
You could take, sealed bill bids on a certain date, just take a high bid. Their responsibility to get it out, and they have. to,
Okay.
Give them 30 days to get it out.
I don't really know too much.
My house.
It might not be possible. in 30 days. I don't know if the construction is pretty quick.
no, practice.
It may not be possible in 30 days, depending on the construction. that's taking place.
See the truck in there.
But yeah, definitely. give it time.
Right. We could just have them work with city staff for timing, you know what I mean?
Goal setting.
Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look that over. I have a resolution to approve that ready for Tuesday night.
I do have an argument or complaint with that. You spelled my name wrong. They put Connor instead of Colbert.
We have somebody in the audience that would like to.
Wait a minute, look at the agenda, I don't see an area for.
It's all good. I'll let it
Comment
slide.
or complaint.
I just started laughing. I saw that. I'm like, oh, changed my head.
I think we want to get that.
I think he thinking Chuck Connor back in. the
Right.
day. Yeah, right from it.
Okay, that is really, I'll get it to you.
It's all
It'll be
good.
ready for Tuesday.
I was,
Okay. May I have any questions on that? Yeah, one other thing. I got a phone call from Lee yesterday. And this cost of fixing up his free land with the plot is approaching $6 million. And he was interested in seeing if the city was
interested in sharing in that cost. Since land is no longer free and it's been very expensive. I believe it's the swap.
So that was that.
I didn't ask a lot of questions. I don't know the right questions to ask. We started with, he made a big error in making that deal. And then proceeded to say that the city would be interested in supporting. And I'm paraphrasing. The city would be interested in supporting them as other cities. That, you know, and sharing the cost of property that we would never be able to sell. For the private systems now. I told them I was very confident. I'm just the mayor that I'm constantly reminded that I have no. So it's been brought forth to the council to discuss or not discuss, think about.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Can we get a picture
Yeah, I can further.
and 6 million the market projected cost, what we thought you could market it for, or what he has to put into it to make it so.
And the 6 million wasn't even budget for the whole engineering side of that whole.
No, I believe because he mentioned the engineering from my name and that he must have gotten a bill or something. He seemed fairly unhappy. And I think that's what maybe put in the past. We can definitely have a further discussion with him. Just in what the official proposal might be outside. We were looking for that.
Mayor said that we were going to replace,
What was the part about the lift station?
It would be a 50/50 participation, not to exceed $600,000, and we've been approved for that. I'll have more information in my weekly summary tomorrow. However, the next step for that application is the environmental, which means they can't disturb anything over there until they do that portion of the study.
they were doing stuff and
Well,
we kept trying to chase money.
yeah,
Was that water line too, that we were involved with and stuff?
I don't remember anything about the water line. I
Water
just
main
remember-
installed.
Yeah, but I thought we were.
We were trying to figure out how we were gonna front money back. And they kept doing stuff.
Because they already did it, you can't.
And we were trying to get home for it.
And then we had the discussion whether it would be a development agreement or cost sharings on the lift station, and the decision was made on the lift station. So again, I agree with the mayor. I go back to AJ and ask him to put a development or some kind of agreement together for, yeah, something formally.
Didn't have, this or just have to be our project, though.
Yes.
That was why.
And we couldn't share it. It had to be
No.
ours.
Right.
Had to be ours, and then yeah, we would have to be the ones.
Yeah, right.
Homeization, all that rocket stuff, I don't know what else. I can do as far as. No one would use, but. Got it in the water lines.
Well, maybe a part of that agreement is kind of showing what his costs are. Yeah.
We'll talk. You and I talk. And we'll get on.
Got
Us being our people, we'll get a hold of his people. Got it?
Got it.
Thanks.
You bet.
Dean, anything you guys are working on? You need anything from the council right now? Okay.
Project park cleanup.
Park cleanup?
As far as the logs,
Yep.
it slowed down with the heat.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah. But I mean, somebody whittling away at the pile out there, so that's the thing.
When's the proposal start on the parking lot?
September 1. You're putting on.
Yeah, sure.
That actually might get started from the tournament project.
Sorry, oh, man.
I hope not.
Oh, that's. I wouldn't hold my breath on it.
Yeah, I know not. Anything for you, chief? Anything going on?
Good.
We can help.
Luke's at a training this week. It's called Alert Training, and that's active shooter response. Basically, he's gonna be an instructor, and he's gonna come back and teach us not just our department, but all area departments. We're gonna go do some training on active shooting at schools, working with NICs, working with Piast Elementary, just kind of get the house would be nice, just, we're gonna work with other departments, how we're gonna respond to those kind of trainings. So it's a great training. It's a very high-end training that he's at. So it's not one of those fluff ones where you just show up. You actually have to pass. So yeah, he's got one more day tomorrow and we'll work that into our schedule too. So.
You guys do some stuff like with the area schools that you're covering, that the way out.
Absolutely.
We're getting in and out of the left and right. Yeah. Good.
All right, anyone